Hello, this is Mary from Casing the Cover, and as library brats, my co-host Jen and I happen across numerous crappy covers, atrocious authors, sad titles, and the occasional masterpiece. We spend an unhealthy amount of time decoding how cover designs can be humorously contrary to the story within, and how publishers lure unsuspecting readers. Should you judge a book by the cover? Join Mary and Jen on the case to find out.
Hello! Welcome to Casing the Cover! Another episode of craziness and zaniness with our crazy socks on today. Okay, you better cut that out.
Would you like me to do a better intro?
Yes, please.
That was good.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Casing the Cover, the podcast where we're not going to talk politics at all, right, Jen?
Right, absolutely. But I make no promises about our special guest today.
Fair enough. I am Mary, as with me as always is my co-host Jen, and today we have a special guest,
Tobin! Yay!
Yay! Wait, I shouldn't cheer myself. What? Oh,
Yes, you should. You should definitely cheer yourself.
Yay!
So, previous to this episode, you should have heard us do a review of some books of Ron's. I don't know which one you reviewed.
I don't remember which one I reviewed.
We recorded that episode a while ago.
So we recorded the episode a while ago. I'm fairly certain I read Debts of Blood for our episode because it's the new one.
Okay. We talked about both covers.
Yes, we talked about both covers. In fact, I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself and a little bit about your background and why you chose the topics that you did in your books. And then I'm going to talk about the covers.
Oh. I'll probably agree with you about the cover of the first book. There's going to be a second edition of the first. You'll have a much better cover. Okay, anyway.
He's not going to agree with us about the cover.
No.
But
somebody likes it good. Okay.
Yeah, I really like the first cover.
Okay, well, great.
Because
I'm glad you do.
was it Ruby for Victor?
Yeah.
I like that cover a lot.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, so some of your background in writing and kind of where you come from.
Well, let's see. When did I start writing? I actually started writing when I was 12 years old, 1973. As a matter of fact, I did.
He just called himself out on age.
Yes,
we didn't have to do it.
Yes, I'm 59. I'll be 60 in May of next year. Thank you.
Hey, woo!
So yes, I'll hit you with my cane later. I've been attracted to writing for a very long time. I wrote my first novel stuff in like 1976. I never finished that one. It ended up being like 12 pages. It was about a solar flare hitting the Earth's atmosphere. Would have been interesting, I'm sure. Then the other one was really strange about Nazis running around everywhere. I said, I forget that line. Then I wrote this one, 264-page manuscript. It's still around somewhere. It's called like Hell on Earth, and I wrote it in high school. No, I really can't see ever publishing it. I can tell it came out in 3 chunks, and I had a super angsty time when I was in high school. My favorite thing about high school was graduating.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that we've talked to so far have been like, high school was not my favorite thing.
I liked high school.
Some people loved it, and that's fine. That just wasn't my experience.
I did not thrive in high school either. So I'm with you, man.
I was a theater kid, so I just hid there.
In fact, I wrote this essay for this one teacher, this English teacher who I knew was super liberal. I said, I believe in the Republicans, they believe in big business. And he goes, well, they say they do, but do they really? And he started making me think. Okay, so this one person said to me, why don't you write a book about what you think about politics? So I wrote this manifesto, which I called the Neo-Federalist Manifesto. No, you may not have a copy of it. It's horrible.
I really want to see this. There's
I may let you see it.
Some morbid curiosity about.
I've let a few people see it, but it's like, okay.
And yet somehow that led you to.
Yeah, then I
other bloodsuckers.
Yes, then you're right. Yes, go get to the bloodsuckers. We'll get to them. 1981, I started my magazine newsletter called The Thought. Mostly at first it was basically all me, but as time went by, a lot of people started contributing to it, and it was very lively for quite some time. In fact, somebody said, "What do you think would happen if you got all the writers of this magazine together?" I said, "There'd be a fight."
Is it because that at the time they all thought kind of the same way, and now they've changed?
No, I like to challenge you people to think, which means oftentimes I would publish something in the magazine. No, I didn't agree with it, but I thought it was well presented.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I get these letters, and yes, this is back in the 80s, when people actually still wrote letters and things. It was a much more civilized time.
No Facebook.
1990s, I mean, okay. I was like one of the last people to switch over to using computers on that. No, I mean, I would really switch to view, but some people write to me say, "How could you publish that?" Well, it made you think, didn't it?
There you go.
Of course, yeah, there was this one guy years ago who back in 1985, who thought he was being funny. He said, but that was your magazine. Makes it sound like there's only one thought per issue, and he was a publisher. I said, well, that means it beats yours 1-0. And there's this guy I know who still every so often says, "Man, that was so perfect."
There you go. Yes.
Now, of course, I didn't just write about it. Basically, the magazine at the time was a lot of philosophy, a certain amount of politics, and then I started writing short stories and poetry and stuff like that along with it.
So the short stories that are in this one,
Those are more recent.
the Tales of the Plaz.
Yeah, those are much more recent.
Okay, so they're not older ones that
No.
you've revamped. Ha ha
yes,
ha!
exactly.
Funny.
Very good.
I'm shaking my head.
The books came out of because, in 2007, my friend Chris Becker, who I am going to mention by name, because I've known the man forever, and he's been my friend now for almost 40 years. Yeah, when you get old, you get to have friends a long time.
And he's gonna listen to this episode, right?
I'm sure he will. I'll let him know. I know
You've been name checked. You have to listen.
I know my family will listen to it. My extended family, anyway.
There you go. See, we already have lots of people who
There's
listen.
quite a few.
Uh-huh.
So, but he told me, he said, "Ron, you should revisit those vampire short stories you wrote back in the 80s and 90s. So I read them again. I said, okay, I like the characters, I like the main plot line, but no, I do not want to write about the 1980s.
Well, and that was the thing that I think we talked about, A Ruby for Victor, which is the first one in the series, which you're going to say the title of the series. I'm not.
The Plaz Seschni series.
Thank you. See, I was not going to attempt that one. So we had talked at one point, because we were hanging out, authors things.
I gave you a copy of that at the Glendale Aquatic Center, as a matter of fact.
I think that is where it was.
Oh, yes.
But how you kind of had to update a lot of the technology and even the terminology and things. So that's an interesting thing to think about when people are sitting on a story.
Updating your trunk novel.
Updating your trunk novel. Which, by the way, we should also, as we go into the politics thing of November, also NaNoWriMo is a big thing in November. And so many people, I'm sure, have NaNoWriMo trunk novels.
Oh, everyone's got a NaNoWriMo trunk novel.
I'm revamping some of them now. So, I read Ruby for Victor a while ago, but it's funny because I can see the binding is starting to get weird on it. So we talked about the cover for this one, but the one that I reviewed, the one that's in the podcast, in the episode, is Debts of Blood. And the covers of these are different.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so...
And they still will be when the second edition of the first one comes out.
What happened there? Why is there such a difference between the covers?
Well, my first publisher, who's now defunct because they got all convicted for embezzlement and...
Oh, Lord.
Wow, we've got all...
Yes.
This is all the hot topics.
I'm not going to name them. You can open the book and you'll see who they were. It's fine. But, oh yeah, I mean, at least I got my books. Some people actually got totally ripped off.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, oh yeah, but anyway. They gave me a choice of, as far as the first book goes, they gave me a choice of 3 different covers. And what Ad and I came up with is we liked the writing of the first one, but we liked the moon and the Washington Monument on the third one, so we had them put it together.
That's what I liked about. I liked kind of Washington
They
Monument.
thought it looked like a fang. I don't think it was a fang. Yeah.
The Washington Monument? No, I don't think it looks like a fang.
No.
But like a stake
a
through
little
the
bit like
heart
a stake.
kind of thing. Oh, yes.
That's much better than what a lot of people told me
Why
it
would
looks
it look
like.
like a fang? Why would a vampire have one thang?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, it would grow back pretty quickly. First of all.
That seems like a silly thing to say.
But a stake through the heart kind of
Yeah, and the
Sure.
lighting on it makes it look kind of brown,
Yeah, red.
like reddish brown.
Yeah.
If you ever seen the Washington Monument, it's two-tone color because of how they build it in 2 stages. I mean, it's really bizarre.
Oh.
Yeah, it really is. The bottom is darker than the top.
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh. We like all this cool stuff. We got pop culture and historical reference.
It's been a long time. The Smithsonian is well worth going to see. It's huge. And you can spend like 2 weeks going through all the museums, and you probably still wouldn't be finished with the museums. It's incredible.
Yeah, someday I'll go. Someday.
So that's what happened with that. It's called. I didn't really get much input into it. The second one, when I went to Arizona Publishing and Patty Holstrom, she came up with that. And basically she said, well, the big climax of the book are the too wet. And although Anne didn't really necessarily like, she said, I don't picture Victor and Cassie May looking like that.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like we've talked about this before. The Badger series.
Talked about Hot and Badgered. Yeah, there's a romance series where all of the main characters in the books and the men portraying them on the books look nothing alike.
Yeah.
Well, are these kind of more like independent publishing houses, small press that you're going through for these publishing?
Like I say, I mean, I used Arizona Publishing. I'm happy with
press, yeah.
I'm happy with what Patty did for me. I mean,
Yeah.
finally got out. There was 6 years between the 2 books, which is definitely not what I had planned, but unfortunately there were various and sundry health issues involved.
Did you find going through like small press, like you said, you didn't get a lot of input on your covers, right? You kind of went, here's a choice of a couple options.
Well, Patty and I did talk about
Yeah.
it. And I suppose if I had thrown a temper tantrum, but I was just so eager to get the book out.
Right.
I said, okay, as long as I can stand the cover, and I can stand the cover, it's fine. I like the Atlantis stuff she put around it. Yeah, I mean that part's cool and fine and marvelous. But do I really think that Victor and Cassidy look like that? No.
Well, we've kind of talked before when you look at small press, and I mean even like you've gone through independent people to do your covers and stuff. A lot of time you're working with more stock footage and stuff, so you don't necessarily get people who look like your characters.
Agreed.
When we talked to Avalie, she paid a lot of money to get her covers done because she self-publishes, right? And the guy she goes through actually will pose models to be the characters.
Oh, yeah.
But that's coming out of your pocket
Exactly.
to have someone that looks like your character on your cover.
Right, exactly. And frankly, if somebody said, well, okay, describe exactly what they look like.
Right.
Okay, let me get back to you.
Yeah, to me it's almost safer if you're going to go with a smaller press to not have people on the cover because your characters are not going to be well represented.
Right, which might also be why I like the Ruby for Victor cover better.
Well, also, like, this, to me, this is very vampire novel.
Sure.
Because of the gray and the black and the red.
The only difference is going to be with the second edition. It's going to be a man, his back's going to be turned, and he's looking at the Lincoln Memorial.
Okay. So still the kind of the Washington theme.
Exactly. I mean, so it's not going to go totally overboard. Like they're not going to be having this big party or something. And,
right.
No.
So is this through your other publisher then that you're redoing the first edition?
Right. It was going to be out in time for the Tucson Book Festival, but this weird pandemic happened.
It may still be out in time for the Tucson Book Festival.
Probably will.
In 3 years.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of time now. This is my position right now with publishing books. Is like, well, I'm going to keep doing my thing and we'll publish them and see what happens when the world opens up again. Have a whole repertoire of stuff done.
I miss being able to go to the festivals and talking to people and that sort of thing. I mean, yes, I've sold a few books online. People contact me. That's fine. That's cool. But I like being able to talk to other authors and talk to people and So the only time I got to do that this year was at the Arizona Renaissance Festival, because fortunately, my date was in February.
Yeah, you got in there right before everything started shutting down. You like skated that one. That's pretty cool. I wonder if people had thought that we were going to shut down that soon, if they would have bought more stuff.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
You mean from the Renaissance Festival?
Yeah, if like they would have been a little spendier if they had known.
I don't know, maybe.
Like, you know, and I'm going to totally do this. Like 2020 hindsight.
Yeah, there we go.
I already knew I was going to hell for that one. I already knew. I didn't even need the look.
I made no look. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, politics and bloodsuckers are the big things, big themes in your books.
Yes.
Why do those things go together for you?
Well, a question I love asking people when I do get to go to book festivals, when I tell them about the book and all that, I said, "Well, riddle me this. Tell me which one do you think has more honor, the politicians or the vampire?" And almost to a person, they say the vampires. I said, "You're right."
Well, of course.
Because a vampire may want your blood, but that's about.
Well, plus the vampire's going to stick around long enough, he's got to keep his reputation clean.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
That's
you
true.
do have a good
That's
point.
true. Immortality lends itself to being a little more moral.
You can't get yourself in a headline if you're going to be around a while.
That's true. That's true, yes. Otherwise, then you've got to come up with a whole new look and like hide underground or move to another country or something. Yeah, that's
I have a couple vampires that are monsters, but most of them are not. You know, I mean, Lester is a monster. You know.
Yeah, there's the. Although
But Lester is conflicted
I like
too. Oh yeah, most people do. I like him now. When I first created him, I didn't, but he's grown on me.
So out of these, the idea of this and but why politics? Why put them into politics? I guess.
Well, at that point, when I was first writing them, politics actually made more sense than it does now. If I was writing them now, I probably wouldn't have done it. It's like, what?
Writing books where the vampires are yelling at each other on Twitter.
Right.
Well, they could, but.
So.
It was like. I wanted to. You see, Victor, who some people think is based on me, and no, he's not. There is a character that's based on me, but it's not Victor. I could tell you, but what's the fun in that? Some people come to me, Victor's you, right? No. So say, he might be the son I wish I'd had, but no.
We'll put out there on the comments to after they read it, they need to guess who Ron is
There you
in
go.
there.
For all you people who comment.
If they guess right, I'll say, yeah, you guessed right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not something I'll just say. Well, good guess, but I'm not going to tell you. Yeah.
10 points for Gryffindor.
But it was like Victor. You know, he got his master's degree, and it was at the start of what was then the big ugly recession, which now has been totally dwarfed by what's happened now. And you know, so there he is. He gets this job at a secondhand store. Is the only job he could get. So yeah, he has a master's degree. His father thinks he's a loser. You know, he wanted him to major in business administration, that sort of thing. But he had no aptitude for it. That's why he majored in what he did, political science. And he wrote his master's thesis on morality and politics. And guess what his conclusion was? Right.
You can tell by what happens in these books. When
But it's like his brother's a mooch and all that, so he goes to this nightclub. And unlike me, Victor can't stand techno music. I have no issue. And, you know, so a vampire went in there just to dance. She'd already fed that night. And here he is spouting off these bizarre thoughts about, oh, everybody here's a loser, blah, blah, blah. And she just throws a thought right out and says, well, if everybody here's a loser, what does that make you? And like I said, I mean, it's not giving much away. That's at the beginning of the book anyway.
Right.
So it's like, so after then the next night he goes to a blues show in Burbank, California, and the blues artists happened to be vampires. They were actually slaves back in the Old South. So they experienced a lot of what people sing about.
Well, there's a thought. That vampires existed on, like, we always think of vampires in positions of power, no matter what era they were in.
I guess so.
Or at least not the downtrodden. They're usually somewhere middling and above.
I feel like vampires only get to that point after they've been around long enough to accumulate something.
I guess. I don't know. There's always like Lord so-and-so
There's
is
plenty
a
of
vampire.
vampires that have started on the bottom of that the run. Yeah.
Count Dracula started at the top, man.
I have a lot of the vampires that you'll see in my stories as the series go on often make their living as exotic dancers, you know.
I could see that as a thing because they can charm people.
Yes, exactly.
And, you know, people don't question it if those people disappear.
No, exactly.
Like,
I mean, unfortunately, this blues band and a couple more voices are going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to do something else. We've been doing this for 30 years. People are going to start noticing.
Yeah.
there was, so that brings me to asking about, like, do you remember the Kindred?
Yes.
That series, did that influence you at all?
No. Anne Rice did to a certain point, but more for what I didn't do.
Oh.
I must admit I enjoyed most of her books.
Yeah. Well, so is it like you specifically wrote your vampires to not follow certain tropes, or?
My vampires aren't undead.
Oh,
okay. There's your first difference. They are not undead. Yes, as I illustrated in Debts of Blood, they go through a really nasty transformation process, but they don't get killed. And if they do, then it's game over. And the two transformations is always done in threes. There's the one vampire that's doing it, and there's two standing there with big old machetes or swords or something. So if it gets botched, they cut that person's head off. It's called No, we don't want revenants going around and scaring people. So I think I didn't totally answer your question about the politics. I mean, I really enjoyed writing the scene with Lester. Not Lester. Lester is fine. Lester's great. But no, Victor and the congressman. I mean, that was fun. With the congressman says, "Okay, fine. Tell me exactly what you think of this man." And he did. And the congressman goes, "Okay, I admire somebody who could actually speak their mind."
Yeah, because in this, your vampires don't really have positions of power. They have positions adjacent to power, almost.
Right.
It's really, I like that, because they're not like, oh, well, we're immortal and we have all this money and we have all this experience. Let's just become politicians.
But then again, people find you out when you do that.
Right, but he covers that, and that's what I think is so cool, is that he doesn't just make them these big bad politicians. They're politics adjacent, which means they can control the politicians.
And yes, of course, the vampires have their own politics because of the three orders, yes.
Right.
Yes. Know them by the rings of three: ruby, emerald, sapphire, bee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but in Debts of Blood, you mentioned another one.
Yeah, there was the Order Amethyst, but they were eradicated.
Yes.
Because it was too hard, basically, to tell them from revenants. They all went crazy, basically. They said, we don't need this.
See, now his readers are all going to be going around deciding which color ring they're going to wear, which color jewel they're going to wear. Like Harry Potter kind of thing.
Oh, their vampire houses.
Yeah!
Okay, one, not undead. Two, they don't care about holy symbol.
Okay.
And that's because of a personal thing. It's called, I always thought, why would a Jewish vampire care about a cross?
That's fair.
Good point.
Why in the world? Yeah. Or an atheist vampire care about any house?
That's true.
It's like, oh, wow, okay.
I reject your symbols of organized religion.
You know. I mean, yeah,
and I replace them with my shiny rings.
That's why you'll see sometimes I mentioned that they're wearing a cross on the necklace. You know, just they do it just because. Yeah, my vampires aren't allergic to silver either. They don't care.
They're better than me.
Jen, are you a vampire?
I am not a vampire, and I am not a werewolf. But I do have an allergy to silver.
I was going to have. At first I was thinking about, shape-shifting, but then I thought more and more about it. The one thing, this is the only comment you'll ever hear me make for Stephanie Moyer of Twilight. The one thing she got right was those scenes where the werewolves, after they got together, they were out, whereas they were just eating constantly. Well, that's right, because that would burn so many calories. So that's why in the third book I'll have somebody say, yeah, we can do it, but it hurts.
It's too much work.
Yeah,
too much work, too many calories.
Yeah, exactly. We'd have to go around killing a bunch of people, and it's like, what the?
Your vampires are like couch potatoes. They don't want to do it because it takes too much calories.
Been there, done that.
Well, they also consider conservation of mass. I mean, okay, a vampire wants to turn into a bat. Okay, he weighs 200 pounds. Okay, now he's a 200-pound bat. Wingspan, 16 feet. Okay. Can it be done? Oh, probably, but no.
So you've mentioned you're doing a third book, yes?
Yes.
I think you said before we started the pod that you were hoping to get it out this year, but are you delaying it because of the vid?
Because of the vid.
I mean, until very recently, one of the things for me, this whole pandemic has been incredibly depressing. The one thing I've noticed is that, I'm an introvert. I don't necessarily love constantly being around crowds and all that, but I found that, but they kind of protect me by being around, and they're not around.
Yeah.
They're not around, and I miss, like I say, I miss the festivals. I mean, there's some people who are like hardcore for score. Wow, this is all great. Well, okay, fine. I'm glad you like.
So your third book, are you mostly done with it? Are you still writing it?
I'm still writing it, although I haven't fleshed out. I mean, I've known how it's going to end for 10 years. I know it's going to be called Zoe's Lament.
Now, we are in an election year. Is current political standings influencing stuff that's going into the new book?
There'll probably be less politics than there would have been.
Yeah.
Really?
Shy away from
There'll
it?
be less politics.
Yes.
Well, people will be sick of it by then, I guess.
That's true.
I mean, the way I'm figuring it is Victor is going to transition out of working for the congressman. The congressman is not going to run for re-election, and Victor only promised to do it for 2 years anyways. Victor will keep his promise, even though the accountant, who's a vampire, Joanna, will tell him, well, we can get you out of that if you want. She goes, but it's going to be more personal. Yeah, you can tell by the title, yes, something bad is going to happen to her. No, she's not going to die. But
not spoiling that.
Yeah, that much. No, well, she happens to be one of my favorite characters. I think she's very strong. I mean, one of the things I like writing strong women.
I do like a lot of your female characters, and I will say that I have talked to other male writers who say they like strong female characters, and they don't do that well. But you do a good job with the female characters.
I try my best.
And even in one that really they were characters originally constructed in like the 80s, as you mentioned, and things have changed a lot with respect to like what counts as a strong female character.
That might be towards your advantage though, because if you're writing strong female characters and you're not updating them necessarily to like this weird era we're in now where a strong female character is, oh look, she wears leather and she punches people. Somehow that's a strong female character.
Wait, I have one character like that.
but that's not like the be all and end all.
No.
A lot of fiction you get into, like, that is the extent of it.
I understand what you're saying.
It's like this woman can literally be the same trope in every other regard, but she punched a guy in leather, so she's a feminist.
Paulina just doesn't like people.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Women are totally like that.
Yeah, we don't like people. I mean, we love our fans. Mm-hmm. We love them. But that's because
explain this to you, Jen. There's people we like, and then there's people.
That's true.
It's a whole nother thing.
Yes. If we count you as not a people, we like you a lot better.
I understand.
You're a people or you're a person.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
But I threw Victor into Washington D.C. because I said, okay, what's the worst thing I could do to him?
I love that that's the answer. What's the worst thing you can do to a guy? Throw him in Washington, D.C.?
Figure it this way. He can't stand politicians, so he didn't want to take the jump at the congressman, but he had all this student loan debt. Mm-hmm. It actually proved to be a good selling point with a lot of younger people. I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, that's still something that is continually point to make, is that sometimes your main characters are doing things because they're student debt.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because Congressman says, and it's not because of the Congressman. The Congressman was met by a vampire who convinced him to hire Victor, and the vampires are the ones who are actually providing the money to pay off the loan debt.
Right, yeah.
And also paying for his Georgetown apartments. I'm sure that congressional aides don't really get free apartments, but maybe they do. I don't know.
Depends on who they're sleeping with?
Yes, that.
Oh, I went there.
No, you got political, Jen.
Well, I'm sure we're gonna get political. We're gonna see if we can get ourselves in trouble with politics.
This is like as political as I get. So.
Yeah. Yes, but we have Ron, and Ron is gonna get in trouble with politics. That's why he's here. Books of politics.
Politics and Ron. Well, okay. In 1980, I voted for Ronald Reagan. That was the last time I voted for a Democrat or a Republican as president.
Democrat or Republican?
Yes.
There you go.
That was it. Since then, with one exception, I voted for the Libertarian candidate.
Hey, me too.
Same.
The one exception was 2008, when Bob Barr was a Libertarian candidate. I met that man. I said, this guy's about as libertarian as Stalin.
Wow.
So, in 2008, I voted for Dead Bob, the Renaissance Fair puppet.
Nice. Nice.
And people got really mad at me. What? You didn't vote for a real candidate? You voted for Dead Bob? You wasted your vote. And I said, that's what I wanted to do. I said, because everybody else was a complete idiot. And so,
there you go.
It's like, I mean, I've always loved people, if you don't vote for a Democrat or Republican for president, you're actually voting for the other guy. So I guess I voted for everybody since 1984.
I've heard that argument a lot this year, and I'm so sick of hearing it.
Yes, as soon as you start voting something other than the two.
I mean,
yes.
With other offices down ballot, I voted for Democrats. I voted for Republicans. I voted for Paul Penzone in 2016 because I couldn't stand Joe Arpaio. I voted for him this year because I actually thought he did a good job.
See, there you go. And that's the thing. I think people don't really like. As long as you don't follow that party line and you think about what you're voting for and who you're voting for.
I never vote for somebody who has nobody running against them. I said, well, you've already won.
Yeah.
Unless it's the Tonys.
Unless it's the Tonys.
Do you want to hear that tangent?
Oh my gosh, we're going to go into that tangent at some point. Do we want to go in with it?
Miniature tangent.
Okay.
Because there were no shows in 2020 because of, VID, only like 6 shows were eligible for Tonys this year.
Wow.
And so Aaron Trevette, who is a singer, is the only person nominated for a lead actor in a musical. He's the only one nominated. It does not guarantee him a win. He has to still get 60% of the vote in order to win an award in which he is the only nominee. They should have just rolled them over into next year's Tonys. That's the end of my rant.
That was awesome.
But may I say, I agree with you, actually.
The politics of Hollywood.
No, Broadway.
Oh, my sorries.
I ran for office.
Dare you.
I did run for office in 1984.
Oh.
I did indeed. I lived briefly here in Arizona. I ran for an open seat in the Arizona Corporation Commission, and I spoiled the election.
You spoiled the election?
Yes, because of me, Marcia Weeks, the Democrat, won.
Would she not have won anyway?
No.
Oh.
The difference between her and the Republican was 11,000 votes. I had over 40,000 votes.
Oh, wow.
So yes, a lot of people were right. See, they just spoiled the election. All I said was, well, she could have thanked me.
She could have. Politics. Politics and vampires. Thankless.
I will say that Marcia Weiss was actually very gracious. We went on some programs together, and whereas George Borzo never showed up for anything.
Because he lost.
Yeah, and that's how he lost.
Sore loser.
Yeah, sore loser.
Well, yeah, because you run as a Libertarian candidate?
Yes.
Yeah, so if your third-party candidate got more votes than it would have taken for you to beat the other person,
Oh, yes.
theoretically.
Theoretically.
Unless all 40,000 people would have voted for her anyway.
Well,
you don't know that.
No, chances are it kind of works like this. That there are probably like 12,000 people who wouldn't have voted between the two at all if I hadn't been there. Because
True.
roughly at that point there were 5,000 registered libertarians in the state of Arizona. There's a lot more than that now, but
Yes.
at that point there.
Clearly, there's
Yeah. At
there's
that
a
point,
quorum here.
That's what how many there were. But I figured chances are if I had not been there, Borazon probably would have acted out because there were plenty of people up here because he came from Tucson, which generally is the kiss of death for a Republican.
In Arizona.
Yes. He would have been better off if he had been a newscaster up here. No, he was down there in Tucson.
Wow.
So I mean, Tucson's not exactly Republican friendly to this day.
Interesting. See, I know enough to make the choices for me, and I know the choices that I would like tell other people. Hey, maybe try this. Maybe look into this more.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know enough to like tell anybody, hey, you should totally do this. You should totally vote this way, and this is why. My way of voting.
I used to be more doing that because I was briefly a party officer and all that sort of thing, but I haven't been a party officer in years. I mean, every so often they try to talk to me about it, but I mean, it's like I almost ran for office again in the late '90s, but the guy who was also going to run in the same district, I said, how can you call yourself a libertarian? You're going around promoting upping property taxes. But we have to have some revenue. I said, that's not how you do it.
So, do you think that with regards to the politics of now, I'm going to totally... Mary can delete this if she feels like it, but this episode is going out when?
Probably after the election.
After the election.
Okay.
So, but we are recording it, promise, we are more honest than politicians, promise we're recording it before the election.
Yeah, we're recording end of October.
We would like to know what your prediction is for the election this year. Not just your opinions on it or anything like, just flat out.
Just a flat out prediction.
Yes, and then we'll see if your prediction is right.
It was easier in 2016. I mean, nobody believed me, but in December of 2015, I said, "Oh my God, Trump's going to win." And I mean, I kept arguing with the Republicans even during that time. They were going, "Oh no, he can't get more than 40% of the vote in the primary." And I tell you, he's going to be your nominee, and he's going to win. Not that I wanted to, because I didn't want him to. No.
So then what?
But now we're going to.
He didn't have a track record then, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like we get into now. Okay, I mean, there's some people who speculate that he didn't really get sick. No, I think he really got sick. I think he really got the COVID. I think he did. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's just, I'm 99.5% anti-conspiracy theory. Every so often, something does happen that I say, okay, that's plausible. I mean, so I don't frou them automatically, no, but who's going to win? I think Biden is going to win now.
So Kamala Harris is going to win.
Yes. I was just going to say.
Yes, Biden will probably die after 2 years in office. And
you're going to give him 2 years?
Yeah, I'll give him 2 years.
All right, so there's your prediction.
Mm-hmm.
Biden-Harris is going to win, but Biden's got 2 years to live.
I don't know that it's going to be he going to die. I think he's going to wander off somewhere and no one's going to be able to find him.
He's going to become a vampire? You almost snarked her water.
God forbid.
That was awesome. She almost spit her water. But you see how I did that? I totally brought our conversation back around.
If it was vampires like mine, the elders would go and talk to the vampire who did it.
How dare you?
How dare you?
That's what are you doing?
He's a revenant now. What are you doing?
An eternity of long, winding stories about nothing.
I mean, yeah. There is a rule, even though, yes, one of the characters in my third book is actually a very famous empress, Theodora.
Oh, yes.
As I talked to you about briefly. Yes, that was breaking the rules. It's basically one of the rules that they have is you don't bring famous people in because they're too obvious.
Right.
Well, back then it wasn't quite that bad, but okay, she became one. They had to take her right out of Constantinople, so you can't stay here.
You can't stay here.
So no turning Biden into a vampire, please.
No. And of course, yeah. It'll be book 3 will be taking place basically in 2010, 2011. So I mean,
Okay.
it
So I
won't-
can avoid all this.
So you're avoiding everything crazy.
basically right.
Wow.
It's like I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, could Trump still win? Yeah, but it's like I have dire predictions for what's going to happen, no matter who wins. I mean, the country is kind of a train wreck.
Country.
Yes.
We're kind of a train wreck.
Country.
Yes, I mean, it's like, what's happened here? Is that what this one guy wants to say, richest country in the world? I said, no, we're not anymore. He goes, you're right, we're not. Yep.
So, I have to ask this because you said specifically 2010, 2011. Is that because you have a big plan about 2012? Because you do also include Atlantis and some of that kind of stuff in your books. Are you 2012ing your books, or do you not want to talk about that because there's spoilers?
There will, as you know, Victor was the man who closed the big vaults, and as the one vampire told him, there's something in one of those vaults that would be very bad.
So you're not going to give it away because we don't want to spoil your books.
No.
But 2012 may be relevant in your books.
It may be.
It may be. See, he said that for a reason.
But I'm not going. It's not going to be. Oh, it's the end of the world. I might have them talk about saying, well, the Mayan long count calendar ended that way because that's just when they did. It's called. Frankly, you could continue the count now if you want.
We just didn't take the calendar off the wall and replace it.
I'm sick of writing things.
Our language changed.
The Mayan long count calendar is actually very interesting, but but the people who said, "Oh, it's going to be the end of the world," no, it's just when that age ended.
It's just a change of things. So you're not really avoiding it so much because of politics, though. You're avoiding it because of other concepts.
It's that.
Because see, we put big emphasis on the politics of these books.
Well, of course, and that's what those two books are. I mean, there will be some politics, of course.
You're kind of moving away from it.
Yeah, it's called. I've said what I wanted to say.
Fair.
Yeah.
Also, if you're publishing this in 2021, everyone will be sick of politics by 2021.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I said what I wanted to say. I've said I can't stand politicians as a general rule, and
they're all bloodsuckers.
I mean, vampires are bitter company. You know, so
I love it. So that's what you're working on now. Are there any other things that you're doing right now to, I guess, entertain yourself during time of COVID? When you're not doing festivals and stuff, are there ways for people to get your books? Are you talking on YouTube?
Sure.
Or?
I should talk on YouTube. I'm working on getting a new website. Mine kind of went.
Now is a good time to work on it.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a Facebook page for the Plaz Seschni series, and yeah, I should say more stuff there just because it's there. And yeah, I've had people contact me that way through my Facebook saying, "Hey, I got your first book, and I get the second one." Sure.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So you've got Facebook. You're on the social medias, and
I've got a Twitter account. I rarely use it. I should use it more. I have an Instagram account, but I haven't figured out how to use it really.
I don't do Instagram.
That's why we don't have an Instagram account, because I don't want to figure it out.
I know, we're like, we don't have Instagram.
I've been scratching my head going.
I understand it has a lot to do with taking pictures of your food.
Yes, and selfies.
And
pictures of your animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, with lots of weird frames around everything.
And also videos. A lot of videos on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, I think Instagram kind of took the place. So when Vine existed, I think half of it went to Instagram and half of it went to TikTok. All the stupid shit went to TikTok. All the other shit went to Instagram.
And what about TikTok? Do you have a TikTok? Do you do the dance challenges?
I do not have a TikTok. You know, even though I revamped a lot of the characters from the 1980 stories and put them in there, a lot of them are very different. I mean, in the 1980s stories. Basically, when he joined up with the vampires, he became the male equivalent of a slut. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not like that in this book.
No, he's not.
He's pretty chaste.
He's very chaste. Yes. He's with Cassie Day. He's fine. He's happy. He's great. Yeah.
And is that because of the time period? Do you think? Like, is it because in the 80s that was more like a thing?
I think more to the point that a lot of that stuff in the 80s when I wrote it was wish fulfillment.
Say it's less the time period, more like where you were at when you were writing
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's called There's Something I Didn't Do Before I Was 30 Years Old, and I'll leave it at that. Which is very strange in and of itself. But it was wish fulfillment. You know, it's like yeah, I want to go around, and then I said no, I don't want Victor to be like that.
Yeah.
Whereas of course, on the other hand, there's a vampire Kathleen. Now, yeah, some people might object to that scene. They really shouldn't. That was a power play. I really wrote it that way to unnerve guys.
That's always good. We're gonna keep that one a secret. I know which one you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Yes,
Well, you have to read the books to
you
know. What
have to read the books
Mhm.
because there's.
And then you'll understand.
I don't want to give that one that scene away because, like, giving it as a here you should read it because of that scene, but don't give the scene away. It's good.
No, it's I took great care in that one, and really so far nobody's come through and said, "How dare you write something so gratuitous?" It's not gratuitous.
It's really not. I think there is more. So, and you've told me that before.
Yeah.
With this one, there's like really no sexual
That's
stuff
because
going in
that's
it.
because the poster I had. Well, fine. They touted themselves as being a big fundamentalist Christian publisher, which I still wonder why they took my book. But the funny thing was, they didn't care about scenes where I threw acid on people, dismembered them. But I tried to write this scene that would have been it was a very innocent same-sex scene. We can't publish a positive thing about a same-sex relationship. Even though the editor there said to me, it's a really great scene, but we can't do that.
Oh my God.
And yeah, I showed it to people. I know people LGBT. I said, tell me if this scene is titillating. They really go, what?
It's not really gratuitous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the second edition, it gets back in.
Yeah, I was gonna say this Ruby for Victor is like very little sex or even innuendo towards it.
Right.
And then this one is like, oh my gosh, it just became a romance novel. Like there's a big difference.
That was because of publisher
It wouldn't have
interference.
been.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been quite as different. I mean, there always was more in the second than the first, but.
So do you think you're gonna? So when you say you're gonna redo Ruby for Victor, to redo the cover, are you also gonna add in the
Yes, that's going back in. There's
Author's
there's a dream sequence for Van Harpel that they have me take out and take. I really don't know why. It actually really helped explain the character, and a couple other small things. Because yes, Patty Holzer only had me really change one scene, and I understand why, and it was fine. It was no big deal. I was very. She's gonna freak out about that scene with Kathleen. Nope. She just said, "Wow, well done."
So then, will both of them get new book covers, or are you gonna lean this one more to this book cover?
Like I said, the first book's gonna have the Lincoln Memorial on the cover.
Okay, all right.
The second one, that cover's going to stay the same unless and until such time. I mean, who knows what the future holds? I mean, I have outlines and sketches for a 10-book series if I'm so inclined to do it.
That's cool.
Because people are saying, when are you going to make Victor into a vampire? Maybe book 5.
That's cool.
I'm in no rush to do it.
I hope you do it though. And if you need a motivator, I will motivate you.
Well, that's fine. Maybe I should participate in
Don't let Jen encourage you to write more things.
No,
She'll never stop.
well, maybe that's fine. I could use that for NaNoWriMo to get me back on track.
There you go. See how I suck people
Don't you
in?
look at me like I'm doing NaNoWriMo. Don't you do it.
How late in November is this going to be? I'm going to make my prediction now about NaNoWriMo. I predict that Mary will not do NaNoWriMo with me.
I have a feeling that that prediction will be correct.
But I'm going to try to...
I will be doing Nano Edit. Editing all these stupid episodes that we decided to record. We recorded like 5 episodes before the pandemic that weren't going out till the end of the year. And it's really awkward editing those. We're all like, oh, hi,
The world has changed.
Oh yeah, not for the better.
Pre-pandemic, pre-election.
Wow.
One of the scenes I really enjoyed in the second book also was when Lester visited that rough neighborhood.
Talk about pre-pandemic, pre-election stuff with, yes.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing? I'm taking out the trash.
Don't look at me like that, Mary.
Don't look
Mary's
at me
giving me a
like
look. Well, on that look, maybe we should wrap this up. They are not mummies, but we should wrap.
There's mummies in these
No,
books?
I said wrap things up.
Oh.
I thought I was being funny again, and I'm
Now
not.
you're confusing me as to what kind of lore characters are in these books.
But gee, you should probably ask the one last question. Do I really believe the vampires exist?
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! How did we not ask that question?
I didn't know that was an obvious question to ask.
Oh.
Well, he obviously believes in politicians.
Well,
Actually,
yeah,
no, he doesn't believe in
I
politicians.
don't believe in politicians.
Sadly, yeah.
We don't believe in politicians. Do you believe in vampires more than politicians?
I think it is highly possible that they exist, and I really sat down and said, okay, that's one thing in my book is, okay, if they're real, what are they like? What are they really like? I mean, yeah, I always love to think, oh, they can only come to a house that they're invited in. Why? Are they super polite? What the?
Probably. According to most vampire fiction, they are very polite and prudish.
They're not prudish. They suck people's blood.
Well, yeah, but it's... I've been reading a really dumb vampire series lately, so let's...
Oh. Okay, so on that, this is where we ask you to tell us something that we should read.
Okay.
Or something that's really awful and we shouldn't. But yeah, do something that we should
It doesn't have to be a book. If you can't stand to read and you've been losing yourself in a television show, that's also fair.
I love reading. So it's really good Sean Wyatt action mysteries. It's actually pretty good. I don't see myself for writing that kind of book, but it's
fun to read.
They're well done.
Yeah.
They also have historical stuff. You learn something from it without really realizing you're learning something from it, which is really quite fun. I also really enjoyed Sterling's books about gunpowder stopped working. Yeah. That was an interesting concept.
Gunpowder stops working?
Oh yeah, and then the society ends up being like the SCA and.
Oh, okay.
But not just the SCA. It's really quite funny because the SCA people. Oh yeah, we'll just fight with these swords we got.
So that's the reasoning behind bringing back the swords. And who's the author of those?
S.M. Sterling.
Sam Sterling.
He actually wrote an interesting trilogy of books about a creature that's kind of like a vampire but different and well done. I mean, I've read some really good vampire books. I've read some really lame vampire.
Yeah, there's a lot of lame vampire books.
Oh yeah, there are. Yeah.
I'm not talking about them now.
we did
we'll
a
spend
whole
another
rant.
hour here. Yeah.
We did a pretty big rant about vampire books.
I enjoyed being able to talk about books. It's been quite a while since I've been able to talk about books.
Good. Well, we're very appreciative of you coming and letting us interview you on our show. And
Thank you.
I don't know what else to say.
What's your recommendation?
Oh, I don't have one.
You don't have a recommendation?
All right, no, I don't know. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? What have I been watching? I don't know. All I've been reading is a really dumb vampire series. My husband made me watch that stupid Adam Sandler Halloween movie. I have nothing good to recommend.
Mary's life is tough right now.
Really tough.
It might be as hard as the pandemic and the election.
I have something to recommend. Go watch Lindsay Ellis's video essays on the Omegaverse. And if you don't know what that is, it's okay. You'll soon find out. And I'm going to explain it to Jen after this.
Oh no, I'm in trouble, guys.
What are you going to recommend, Jen?
Alright, I totally had something that I was going to recommend.
Vampires? Politics.
I do recommend that you read Ron's books. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here. They are an interesting take on vampire stuff, and they are an interesting take on politics. But... a vampire. Have I recommended any of the weird vampire movies that I've watched?
I don't know, maybe.
Alright, if I haven't...
We only really talked about vampires when we talked about Stephanie Meyer, and I don't really think we got that into vampire lore. We mostly just talked about Stephanie Meyer.
Okay, so, if I'm going to recommend good vampire movies, one, Nosferatu still scares the skin off me.
You did talk about that in our Halloween episode.
That's
Okay.
That's a good one.
But you should totally watch A Girl Walks Home Alone, or Home at Night. I don't remember exactly the title on that. You should watch Razorblade Smile, which is fantastic vampire. So great. It's really camp, but it's really good. And you should totally watch The Hamiltons.
Not Hamilton.
Not Hamilton. The Hamiltons.
And of course, the best and my favorite vampire thing to ever exist, which is What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
TV series is equally good.
Yes. It's way more fun to watch when Max is around.
There's somehow a Max in the TV show version too.
Yes. Yes, there is.
That's interesting.
Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
No, but I think
Oh, it's excellent.
think I'll-
Okay, watch the movie and then tell me when you see Max.
I'm pretty sure
Okay.
you can get it if you have a library. If you have a library card, I'm pretty sure it's on Hoopla, so you can get it for
Uh-huh.
free.
Yeah.
And watch it for free.
Yeah.
It's my favorite vampire thing that's ever existed.
It's really good.
It's very silly. It's very funny.
Yes.
It's a comedy.
Of course, if you want something totally silly, Dracula Dead and Loving It.
That's good.
Mel Brooks and Leslie Nielsen. Oh yeah,
I
it's,
don't see that one to be
Oh,
like that.
Oh my gosh. Yes,
that
that's a
one
good one
is
too.
classically funny.
Yes.
So now that we're recording this before Halloween, but it'll go out way after. Go vampire up the place.
Yeah.
Go watch some vampire things. Avoid politics. Lean into vampires.
Right? Avoid politics. Lean into vampires. That is what we recommend.
Alrighty. So Ron, they can find you on your Facebooks and your
Yes.
Twitters. Are those all just at Ronald Tobin?
My Facebook page is Ronald C. Tobin.
Okay.
My Twitter is at Ronald C. Tobin, and also I have the Plaz Seschni series on Facebook.
Perfect. So go find Ron there. And as for us, you know all the regular places to find us. We did add a Goodreads account
Yay!
that we haven't put anything on, but the hope for that is that we will review some of the books that we are reading personally that don't make it onto the show, because Jen reads 1,000 books a day, and they're all not all going to make it on the show. But we'll also put some reviews of stuff that we have read for the show. So go find us on there, and I think that's it for today. So thank you all for listening. Thank you again, Ron, for joining us.
My pleasure.
And you will hear us next time.
Yay.
Bye! Say bye, Ron.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Ron. Okay.
Thank you so much for cracking another case with Mary and Jen. To learn more about Casing the Cover, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Casing the Cover. To contact us or suggest a book, email casingthecoverpod@gmail.com. New episodes of Casing the Cover release the second and fourth Tuesday on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.